Hey, what's up, everybody? Alright, so today I'm gonna try to build a Vue or a Laravel application with a Vue front end, and we're gonna use Laravel Cashier in order to be able to make purchases. It's basically gonna be a really simple shopping cart kind of application. The goal for this is that this is going to be the source code and kind of the overview of my next YouTube video. So you'll kind of see the process that I go through for each of these videos, where I kind of just work through and build a test app and see what comes out of it. Alright, so I got PHP Storm open with which has nothing in it. So I'm going to go ahead and get my dev environment set up with Docker. It's not empty. What's in here? Okay. Let me know if the music's too loud or anything. I'm going to use Vue inside of Laravel. So it's not going to be a separate Vue app, purely because the bulk of this work is going to be in Laravel. So it's going to work like a single page application, but instead of it being like a separate Vue app and a separate Laravel app, I'm just going to have a single blade template that's going to render out a Vue app, and then that Vue app will act like a single page application. But everything that I'm going to be doing with this application, you should be able to split out into two separate components, because all of the backend functionality and everything is going to be wrapped under the API routes, and anything that we do is probably going to use Sanctum in order to run authentication and handle the cookie software and everything. Hey, what's up, Robert? Good morning from Australia. I did check out Laravel Sale. It's pretty nice, actually. I'm really happy that they got Docker into the official Laravel repo. I know a lot of people are excited about that, and I'm happy that it's getting more of the spotlight. And someone from Twitch is saying Inertia. I haven't used Inertia, actually. I've wanted to check it out. Never got around to it. I'll probably put that on the old 100 items to-do list and check that out eventually. Okay, I got my Git repo cloned in here. So now I'm just going to boot up everything with Docker. Oh, it's not called Nginx. What is it called? Is it Site? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, and I'm going to install Laravel. Create project, Laravel, and here. Oh, what's going on now? Failed to execute script Docker compose. I've never seen this error before. The joys of working on Windows for the first time in a long time. I got the Docker file. Docker compose. Run. Composer. No such file or directory. What the hell is this? It's always fun. Oh, let's find out what's going on here. Failed to execute script Docker compose. Let's see what Stack Overflow has to say about this. Make sure Docker for desktop is running. It is. I literally just brought up Docker with the script. See, Docker PS, that's working fine. And Docker Compose PS, but Docker Compose is not. That's weird. I don't know why. Is something wrong with my Compose script, maybe? Someone's saying this has to be in double quotes. Maybe that's what it is. Let's try that out. If that is, then I have to make an update to that repo. Nope. Nope, no such thing as Docker Compose. Let's see what else we got here. Fail to execute script Docker Compose. Just updated Docker too, so I wonder if this is a bug. Default stack orchestrator. Context. Docker /temp Docker Compose V. Regular Docker. Does Docker Compose even work if I do like Docker Compose V? Yeah, Docker Compose is working. Up's not even working anymore. What is going on here? This is so weird. Just watch me go through all of these, this lovely debugging process. Try to delete them and download them again. All right, well let's try to kill the Docker process and bring everything down. It's not even running down, Jesus. It's Docker Compose kill. Docker Compose kill doesn't even work. Reinstalling Docker, reinstall Docker. Docker Compose version much of match local Docker Compose install. Oops. Really? B. There we go. It was just working yesterday too. Yeah, let me just try to, I guess, bring everything down. Open up Docker Desktop. Bring everything down this way. I was having an issue with this earlier. Let's see if we can stop these containers and destroy it. Docker is running. Let me try to bring Docker back up and down again and just exit it completely. I know there's been an issue too because I'm using WSL2 with the Docker and Docker Compose. Alright, so the WSL backend has been stopped. Let's bring this back up again. Noseclam Tony said, update my WSL. It should be on the latest one. I'm using the nightly builds on Windows 10. So it should have pulled in the latest stuff from last night, this afternoon. But I guess we'll find out. All right. This is up and running again. No containers. Cool. So now let's open this up and try again. I see it's running the build process just fine. That's what's really throwing me with this. Oh. Yeah, WSL is getting nice to the best of both worlds, but there's still so much that you just can't get from a real Unix system. All right, let's specify the file name. All right, docker compose f docker compose.yml run rm composer. Nope, that doesn't work either. Run docker ps. It shows the containers up and ready. For some reason, it doesn't want to run anything besides up. This is so weird. Come to my stream where you can watch me debug Docker issues on Windows for the next 30 minutes. Here, maybe if I specify that I'm doing this on WSL. Oh, look at that. WSL. Docker compose up. No, up's not failing. Up is not failing at all. Failed to execute script docker compose. Let's try this. Huh, Reddit always gives me good advice. Node package isn't installed. What? Copying the lock file. This isn't a problem. Lando version and operating system. SSH into the Nginx container to see if Composer is in there. Well, Composer should be running on its own container, but I wonder if it'll let me even execute that. Compose exec. Let's go into the Nginx container. Bin sh. Nope. This is so strange. Does it even let me run? Yeah, so it lets me, it shows me the help if I just use run, but for some reason specifying something for run doesn't work. Docker compose run, maybe with out rm composer? Nope. I feel like something is wrong with this docker compose script that's causing this issue. Maybe specify the version as 3.8, which is fairly new. Nope. Because we have that composer file here, right here. You need to build without site. Is it because I didn't build the composer? That makes a lot of sense. Oh boy. Oh, wait, hold on. Docker compose build. Yeah, no, my docker compose build just fails too. But here, let's try docker compose up build. That's weird that's not working here, even though the containers were built before. Let's try stopping these again. And removing this. Okay. So docker ps shows nothing. Docker compose up the build without specifying the site name throws an error. But if I specify site, it doesn't. Again, what is going on? You all saw as this was working just fine with docker compose up like 5 minutes ago. Something's definitely amiss here. What'd you send me? Nose Clam Tony. Compose issue. Let's see what we got here. Fails in WSL environment. Is there any resolution for this? Same issue with Mac. Before in store creds. removing the file worked for me in .docker config JSON. Tried removing the docker config JSON, coming to the store creds. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's try. So it says to remove this file. And then let's try rebooting our Docker and see what happens here. I might have to reboot my command line as well, because WSL doesn't like working with Docker when I start it up first. Back up, back up. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, that's working here. Docker compose up, B, build, and we won't specify site this time. And it fails. Let's try reopening up .wsl. I actually might just say screw it and use PowerShell for this, because I know that'll probably work on that. Sites, at least so we can get some development actually working today. All right, so this is building everything. Everything's built. I don't have Composer locally on this. Run rm composer. Yeah, let's try opening up a Windows PowerShell and seeing if this works. cd sites, Laravel Vue Stripe tests, clear, Docker compose, run. This is actually working though. So yeah, I think I'm just going to use PowerShell for now until I can figure out what's going on with WSL. So let's at least get our Laravel project up and running. Oh yeah, I forgot there's a README file in there. Let's clear that out. Composer 2 is just so much faster on Docker than it used to be. I mean, this process itself, just getting Laravel, like a plain Laravel project installed using Docker and Composer, would take easily 3 to 5 minutes, and my fans would be whirring the entire time. And now this thing's going to take probably under a minute. And this is, you know, all the dependencies and everything from Composer. That's just so much faster. I hope you're all doing good this Saturday night or Sunday morning, depending on where you're at. We started about 20 minutes ago. yeah, Composer 2 is insanely fast. Ugh. Yeah, while this finishes up, so first thing I'm going to start doing is getting some migrations up and some models up for this. Basically what this application is going to have is we're going to do probably a product and an order model and table, because essentially the user is going to go onto the website, they're going to see a variety of products, maybe do a categories table too, a price for each of these products, maybe an image, description, a title, and then they'll be able to click on one, read about it, it'll go to an individual page for it on Vue, and then add it to their cart. That cart and the items that are in their cart are going to be stored through Vuex, through the state management library. And then on checkout, we are going to use Vue, we're going to use Laravel Cashier and tie this to Stripe. So Stripe will be handling all the web payments. We should just be able to pass in some basic information, user's email address, credit card information, and be able to check out and send them to some kind of success screen. How long will this stream be? I'm not sure. There'll definitely be a break in between it. I'll probably be on here right now for maybe like another hour or so. And then I'll probably take about an hour or so break to get some food and boot it back up later if you guys are interested. To see how far we get right now. All right. Looks like our Vue application is up and running, or Laravel application is up and running. We got everything in our source directory. Let's just gotta change out some env files or values. So we gotta set this to MySQL for the hosts, homestead, and secret. And we're using, what was it, Laravel Vue Stripe.test. So now if I go back here, this site can be reached. Why can't it be reached? I'm not running on port 80 by default. And what am I on? 8080. Let's bring that back up so it's on the right port. Is PHP Storm speedy? It really depends on two things. It depends on your system and the complexity of your project. So right now I'm on a pretty powerful PC, so it's really speedy for me. Searching through files or doing anything in it, like booting it up, is really fast. But so for portability, I have a MacBook Air that I use. Just the i3 model, and it's kind of slow on that. I actually use VS Code for that a lot, for that system a lot, because it's just faster. But yeah, if you have decent hardware, it's well worth it. I mean, everything just ties into this IDE so nicely. All right, is our site up now? Let's find out. Why can't it be reached? What's going on here? It's on port 80. Have you reached your localhost? Did I not? Okay. Welcome to reached your localhost. I don't know why I never changed my host file like I thought I did. I'm gonna go ahead and do that over here in the background. What does delegated in volumes mean? For Docker, when you have a delegated volume, it essentially tells Docker and the virtual file system that runs between Docker and the containers and your local system. It basically tells it that the source of truth for the data that's in that volume should be in Docker. So if for any reason you're doing a lot of writes to your file system in a volume between Docker and your local file system, if they're running kind of fast together, Docker is going to ignore writes that are coming from your file system versus the ones that are coming from inside the container itself. And it usually lends it to have like a speedier load time for it. But the caveat with that is that if you are doing a lot of writes from your local file system on your computer, they might get overwritten. For most of what I do, I use delegated because I don't see any issues with that. I've never had my files overwritten because I don't do a lot of writes from my local system, and it makes load times a decent amount faster on some Docker setups. I hate finding the host file on Windows. It's so obnoxious. Okay, now we should see this updated. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, I have heard about Laravel Sail. I'm really excited for it. I tried it out this week, and I like that it's a one-line command. If all you have to do is get Docker or desktop installed for your system, or the Docker repositories if you're using Linux, and it's a single command line for any system to get a local Laravel dev environment set up. I think it's good because, in my opinion, it lowers the barrier of entry for developers who don't want to install requirements on their, or install software on their local system, PHP, MySQL. It's awful to set up. It breaks every update, at least with my experience. So having something that's in the official documentation that's super easy to get set up with this, it just opens the world to more novice developers and people who don't like working with, the sysadmin side of things and the hardware side of things. All right, so let's get those migrations added in. So I definitely talked about product. I talked about category and order. I think it's what we'll start with now. If we need to add more later, we can. And so I'm going to use Docker Compose to run these with Artisan. And we're going to say make model product and throw in the migration flag, which will create our migration for us as well. Yeah, I'm drinking coffee right now too. Okay, it'll keep me up through this. All right, order. And category. I think that's all we'll need, at least for right now. So each product is going to have multiple orders associated with it, and each order will have multiple products associated with it. So we're looking for like a many-to-many relationship there. Each product is going to have multiple categories associated with it, and categories with products, so another many-to-many relationship. And then we'll probably create customers in the users table, since that's already there, and I'm not going to have like any kind of dashboard or anything with this, so we'll just dump every order that happens, we'll just dump them into the users table. And so we'll put each order will have a user associated with it, and a one-to-many relationship. One user can have multiple orders. Okay, let's get into our PHP Storm and start scoping out these migrations. So let's take a look at our default users table first. I don't really need an email verified at. Email password. That looks good. I don't know if we're going to be storing a password for these people so far, but just keep that in there. All right, products. So we need a name for the products. So we'll do string name. We'll do an about. So we'll do text description. Do you set UUID 4 by default in new tables created? I don't. I don't use UUIDs, at least like in any kind of personal projects or anything like that. I have used them in the past. I like UUIDs for IDs purely because, especially if you're doing stuff with a user-facing side of things, like an admin dashboard, or anything where your end user is going to see some sort of ID, it looks cleaner to have something that's not sequentially added, because then you run into the case where people could see like a really low ID and think, oh, your application's not, that popular as much as you'd like it to be. So just that unique string value of a UUID is better in that regard. If you're using Docker for DB purposes, takeout is very nice. Yes. I've tried that out when it was released a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago. I don't know, 2020's time is like just gone out the window. But yeah, Titan creates some nice products. I really like that they came out with takeout. All right, let's see. We got name, description. For the sake of simplicity, I'm probably not going to do an image. I don't feel like dealing with image uploads and stuff like that right now, so we'll keep an image out of here. Price, we'll need a price. We can store that as an integer. Default will just be $0. It'll be stored as cents, so then on the front end we can just divide by 100 and put a decimal place where it needs to be to get an actual dollars representation. That's kind of how I like storing prices. I don't like storing prices as decimals off the bat. It also makes converting to different currencies a lot easier, at least I found. I think that's it. I'm not gonna do any variations. Not gonna slug. Slug is good. That is really good. Put that up here. We'll need that as an identifier. And I'll probably use a storing as a double. Yeah, that's also, oh, my light just went out. There we go. Storing it as double would also be good. I don't know, I hate dealing with decimal places with prices, but it's personal preference. If this was an enterprise application, I probably would go double. Unique for slug, also good. Nice. Okay. This is looking good here. SKU for similar products. We'll just keep the slug for now. This is literally just going to be a super simple example kind of shopping cart application. But yeah, if this is any kind of public facing, and we need a SKU, we need a product ID, UPC, some kind of identifier, variations, images, obviously. Orders. So for the order, we're going to need, I think we're going to need some kind of ID from Stripe. I don't know what it's called. I think they call it like a checkout ID, maybe? Checkout token. I'll have to edit that later. We can store the total of everything as well as another integer for price. And set a default to 0. We need the user ID because these are going to be attached in a one-to-many. And this looks good for right now. I don't think we're gonna have to have anything else on here just to show, because I mean the bulk of what's in the orders like page is going to be products, which each of those is going to be in a many table, which we'll need to create the migration for that as well. And onto categories. So for categories, super simple, we'll just do a title. Actually, we'll do that as name to match the product table. And like the product table, we'll do a unique slug as well. That's all we need for categories. Transaction ID, that's, I'll use that. That sounds better than Stripe ID. Perfect. Okay, now we need to create that intermediary table. Okay, so for many-to-many relationships on Laravel, I'm trying to remember, it's alphabetical order underscore no plurals. So we are attaching products to orders, A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, P, Q. So O comes first, and yes, I have to do that every time. So it'd be create order product table. And that should populate by itself. You used to have to throw in the table flag or option and in order to pass in what you want the table name to be, but I don't think you need to do that anymore. I think it'll automatically generate that for us. It does. So it creates this order product table. And so we can get rid of everything that's in here and just table integer order ID and table integer product ID. Okay, and then we need one for the products and categories. So we'll need to do create category product table. And open this up, remove this, table, integer, category ID, and table, product ID. Okay, so now we have our migrations up and running, and we can run those by doing .compose run rm artisan migrate. And it should populate the table, the database table. Let's find out. It did. Okay, so let's open up those let's open up those models and start scoping some out. And if you haven't played with Laravel 8 yet, it quantity for order product. Ah, that's a good one. Let's create a new migration then, since I already migrated everything. Let's add quantity to order product table. And we'll specify the table here, order product. No rollbacks here. Just straight ahead. Alright, so table, integer, quantity, default 1, after product ID. And then table, drop column, quantity for the down. And let's run the migration and see if this works. Hey, look at that. Okay. Now we have everything that we need up and running. So we can open up our product model. And guard is just going to be an empty array in all these. I don't care that items get added in willy-nilly. We're using this as an example, so it's really not going to matter that much. And then this is attached to a user, so public function user is returning has one, or no, not has one, belongs to user class. And then each one of these has, oh, I feel a sneeze coming on. Multiple orders attached to it. This, is it belongs to many? Yeah, I think it belongs to many. 6 odd years into Laravel development, and I will never remember relationship classes that much. I go to the documentation all the time. Belongs to category, yes. Public function category. Category. I think that looks good for our product. Order. And see, this is something that I really like about using PHP Storm, is that you could see as I'm in here, if I just type in protected, it'll show me all the attributes that it could expect on this model. And it just, that's what makes it worth it. It saves so much development time. Product doesn't belong to user, does it? No. Wait. Yeah, no, it shouldn't belong to a user. I don't know how to put that there. My coffee's not kicking in yet. Orders belong to user. So each user can have multiple orders, but each order only belongs to one user. Products, each order has multiple products. And I believe that's it for the order model. Product, okay, yeah, each product has a category and has multiple orders. And then the user change this guarded and remove we're removing this email verified up because we're not even using that. So, but it has, each user has multiple orders associated with them. So we can return this belongs to, nope, has many order class. If I could hit the right buttons, that'd be great. A user can't have multiple products through order. That is right. But I'll probably just keep that out for the sake of simplicity from this backend. And then did we do category? We did not do category. I think that's all we need. It's just categories belong to products and products belong to categories. Yeah, there should not be categories, should be categories. Okay, that's looking good. So now what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to work on getting belongs to many and products to category. Yeah, I got the, oh, belongs to many. Huh. You guys are gonna watch a lot of mistakes in this. I can guarantee you. Thank you so much to the chat for helping me out through this, because this is not an uncommon occurrence. Okay. Next step is I'm probably going to use factories and seeders so we can get some fake data in there up and running. So I don't have to go into the database manually, or so I don't have to use Tinker or anything like that to get a lot of test products. And then after that, we'll build out our API and I'll show you the products as they come through. So let's get started on that. So database factories, we already have our user factory here. And basically what that does is that each factory defines a fake complete model of that table or item. So each time that we run this factory, it's going to return back to us a complete user model here with all the attributes that we're expecting pass through. We're actually going to get rid of the email verified because we don't need that. So the faker class, which comes installed in Laravel by default, is going to generate a name for us. It's going to generate a unique safe email for us. And it's going to create this password hash, which resolves to just password. And it's also going to create a random token for our remember token. Since we're not going to use that in any of the seeders or anything like that, it just doesn't matter. But the database needs it. I don't know if it needs it, but it's going to have it in there. So now we're going to create one of these for each of our models that we want, and then we are going to then create seeders to create the actual models that get saved into the database. So seeders use factories to generate the data responsible and then save the data into the database. Factories are usually generally used during testing. They're used to create like fake models so that when your tests run, you can test them against what the data is that you're expecting to come out of the database without actually having to create and save that into the database. But you can also use them if you need to rapidly seed your tables with data for any reason. So this video is going to be not only saved on like Twitch and YouTube to view again if you'd like to, but the entire source code for this video and the whole general gist of this stream right now is going to be in a video that I'm releasing next week about creating an application, creating a simple shopping cart application with Laravel, Vue, and Stripe. So if you'd like to see that, you'll be able to check that out on my YouTube in a few days. And the length for that will be much shorter than this stream. It'll be condensed down to probably about 30 to 40 minutes. Okay, So we have our user factory. That looks good. And now to generate factories for any other class or any other model, all we have to do is use artisan. And I can use that with Docker Compose, artisan, make factory, and I believe, let me just hop over to the documentation and see what the actual factory relationships, defining model factories. Just make factory. Okay, you pass in a model flag with the model name. So make factory model equals, oh, I need the name first. Product factory model equals product. Did I do something wrong? Oh, I used 3 flags for the RM. Wow. Whoops. Guess time I get new glasses. All right, that's done. We'll create another one for our orders, which might be kind of hard to do. But the most difficult part of this seed is going to be getting those relationships added in, but we'll wing it when we get there. And the documentation I'll have to read through because I haven't done relationships in a factory in a little bit. So I'll go through and get refamiliarized with it with you guys. Why do you not use shortcuts to retrieve the last command you wrote? Because that would be too easy. Honestly, I don't have an excuse for that. I have, so on my daily driver computer, on my command line, I have all types of aliases. I just haven't had the chance to put them into this Windows machine yet. I got this set up for development not too long ago. So I usually have commands for Docker Compose up, down, run, which is usually DCR. If you see that in any of my videos, DCR is just a shortcut for Docker Compose run with the RM flag. Just haven't had the chance to get those set up. All right, so we got our factories up here, ready to go. Oops. So see, we're using this factory here in an extends factory, which allows us to then implement this faker. Before Laravel, you had to implement the faker class by itself, but now it's included in all these factory classes, so that makes life a lot easier. So we have a product factory here, and our model is the product class. And so we need to return a set of attributes which are required for this model. So we're going to open up, get rid of user factory, we're going to open up our migration for the product table at the same time and just match what we have here. So we need to create a fake name first and a select to go with it. So we can return name is faker. What would be a good name for this? I gotta see what the faker attributes you can have are, because I don't know what would be good for a product name. Base, lorem ipsum text, real text, company, internet, miscellaneous maybe? No, that's not good. User agent, internet domain name, no. Address, lorem, base. You know what, let's do, just do lorem ipsum text. It doesn't sound that fun. Products related to internet domain. Well, this company name, could work if I also tack on some type of like prefix, like a type of clothing, sweater, pants, shirt. So I think I'm going to do that. It's called company. So if I go back to PHP Storm company, and then we'll add in, let's do product prefixes is an array, sweater, pants, shirt, hats, glasses, socks. That works. So then we're also going to create, or we're going to get a random key from that array and paste that into that as well. And let's find out how to get a random key, because I don't remember how to do that. I know there's a helper that Laravel has that we can get that. I'm sure there's one. Array random. Perfect. So we can say use illuminate support facades. It's not facades. What is it? It's just support. R and then our random product prefixes. So there we have the name. Now the slug needs to match the name though. So we need to generate that name beforehand. And store it. So now we have, this is the name, and slug, we need to use the str helper. Str slug name. I see you use Windows. Can you quickly let me know how you work on there? I assume Docker, but with WSL2 or yes. So right now I'm using WSL2 with Docker. You were not in here earlier, I'm assuming, but it was awful. Usually it works fine. It works great even, and I love having a Unix terminal on Windows. It's the reason that I'm trying to work more with Windows development. That and the computer that I'm using for this is faster than my laptop that I usually use for development. But it's got some quirks still, especially with Docker. There's times where it won't run things for the strangest reason, formatting issue. The fact that you open up your terminal before Docker was running is another big issue. It has some quirks that really need to be worked out. They're pushing out nightly releases though, a lot of updates for it, a lot of fixes, a lot of features. They recently just pushed out a feature which lets you mount external hard drives through WSL, which was awesome because I actually needed that the other day for something that I was doing. And they just released the feature for it, but it's good. I'm liking it. Windows is taking a lot of steps forward in the development community, and I really appreciate that for them. Have you worked much with Podman for setting up your containers? No, I haven't even heard of that before. Is your project on a Unix file system or Windows partition? It's on a Windows partition right now. And will there be a recording? Yes, this will be recorded on both Twitch and this YouTube channel, and a video for this whole process will be out later this week. I always use Git Bash on Windows. If you like the Mac desktop look, Dual Boot with Elementary OS has a super simple install that sets as Dual Boot really well. Yes, I love Elementary OS. I was using that not too long ago, but the biggest thing for me, and it's going to sound awful, but I don't like, I'm so used to the Mac keyboard layout that the Control and Alt keys being swapped for things like Control C, Control V, Control Tab. I like the Mac layout of it. to be able to hit Alt Tab to switch between windows and Alt C and Alt V to copy and paste, that I could not find a reliable way to do that in elementary OS was to swap the Control and Alt keys. It was always either like a hacky fix that only worked some of the time, or it was just for like the copy and paste command. So until I can figure that out, I'm on Windows, and I'm liking Windows with WSL too a lot recently. But yeah, nothing will beat the native Linux system, especially when we're working with Docker. It's insanely fast. Okay, so we got the name and slug. Description, which will probably just be, I think Faker does like long texts, real text. Let's do real text. Max characters. This is going to be fairly long, so let's do 256. That seems like a good length for a description. Actually, let's do 320. And description price. It's a number. That's what they have. Number between. So let's do a number between. These are high-end items. We're going to do a number between 10,000, which when we divide by 100 will be $100, and $1,000. Okay. And that's it. So the timestamps and everything will be generated by default for us, I believe so. If I go to the user factory, that's generated. Yeah, it's generated by default for us. So that is our product factory. And now I can use that to generate a new product with those fake attributes. I'm using PHP Storm, but one problem I'm facing, extension.belay.php doesn't appear when I press right click. Do you mean when you're trying to open it from like a Windows? So if I was yeah, probably should use decimal, but we've already run the migration to store it as an integer, so it'll probably bite me in the butt later. We'll find out. So are you talking about, Bernard, if you're in like, you're saying that the Blade PHP extension doesn't work, are you talking about how if you're on like the file system, you don't see that PHP Storm is able to open this up? Or are you saying that like in PHP Storm itself, there's a problem with the Blade extensions? If you let me know more about it, I can try to help you out. You don't use comma after the last array's element. I mean, I could, but usually I don't know. I know that's bad. We'll use it for you guys. Okay. Product factory is done. Order factory. This is going to be a little harder. So we need a user ID, we need a transaction ID, we need a total. So that's not that hard to do, at least for two of those. So user ID, we'll have to generate that on the fly. Excuse me. And then transaction ID. We're just going to use a random string for that. Using the str helper library, we can just do str random, and we'll do a 16 length string. And what was the last thing? Total. And like before, we'll just do this faker number between, and we'll do a number between 500 and 2000 once the decimal gets added in here. So the biggest problem is going to be this user ID. There's two ways of doing it. Actually, I don't know if there's two ways of doing it, but the way that I always do this is that if I know beforehand how many users I'm going to be generating in the database, because our users right now are using primary keys that are ascending in value from 1, I can just create or just pull a random number out between 1 and however many users I'm creating and use that as a user ID. Is it great? No, but it works every time that I've used it, as long as we are for sure generating the amount of users that we're expecting to, which for this I'm going to hard set the amount of each model that I'm going to be generating in the seeder classes, so this shouldn't be a problem. So all we're going to do is run this faker, number between, and I'm generating 10 users, so 1 and 10. And there's our order factory. PHP Storm itself when you try to create a file. Well, I don't mean to go off topic real quick, but yeah, so if you're in your views folder here, if you were to right click in new file, the easiest thing to do, so you might not see it here, which I don't see it either. I don't, sorry, I thought I had to sneeze. Whew. There it came. Allergies. Okay. But if you hit new file here and you name it something like, all you have to do is just name it like default.blade.php, and it'll notice it that it is a blade file, and it'll be available as the blade template here. But yeah, by default, I don't think under the new section there is a blade file here, which I kind of don't like. Thank you. Okay. So back to where we were. We got the order factory done. We got the product factory done. Let us work on the category factory. So if we look at the categories table, it's just expecting a name and a slug. So like what we did with the product factory, we're going to have a name and a slug, and that slug is going to be the slug version of the name, which we will generate on beforehand. And so our name is going to be this faker. We just need like nothing too crazy. Real text of like 10 characters. That should give us like, I don't know, couple words or one big word. So that should be good. I don't know why I put a comma there. That should be a semicolon. Don't forget the quantity. Did I forget the quantity on something? Order factory. Oh, no, that's on the relationship table. So we will run that during the seed process. I hope. We'll figure it out along the way. Combine random text with barcode in random order. Okay, category factory is done. Product factory is done, order factory is done, user factory is done. So now we can actually start using these factories to generate data for us. And the way we do that is with something called a seeder. So we can go down here to our database seeder here. And this is by default coming out of Laravel. And what it does is that you call under this run method the factories that you want to use, and using this create method here, it saves them in our database, which we could do it this way. We could do it on the fly and create all the we just paste in the factories here and use create methods, but I like using a separate seeder class for each model that we're generating. It just keeps things kind of separated, and I believe it'll make using relationships easier as well. So let's go to writing seeders. Excuse me. And so what it's going to do is it's going to have a second run function here, which is what we're going to use with our factory. So user factory times, and then this allows us to tack on relationships to it and paste in the amount of relationships that we want to do it with it. And then we can just use the the class itself in the call method for the main database seeder, and then just run dbseed, and it'll actually run the seeder. Separating out into classes also allows us to run just one seeder too. So if we don't want to generate the entire database tables at once, we just want to generate more users or more products, we can just pass in this class method here to generate just a class that we want. So let's create some seeders. Open up my command line and use artisan. Do I need to pass in anything for that, or is it just, is it literally just, yeah, it's just the name. Okay, so user seeder's done, product seeder, category seeder, and order seeder. And we might not use all of these actually, because a lot of these have relationships with each other. We can call factories from one seeder that'll populate both tables that we need through just that one class. User product order category. Okay. Excuse me. So now in this run function here, we can run this call, and we can call in all of our seeders that are separate. So each time that we run just dbseed, we want to populate the database with all of our seeders. So we can do user seeder, class, product seeder, class, order seeder, and category seeder. But again, like I said, we might not use all of these. I'm just adding them in here because this file is already open. You should definitely try to move your project into the Linux file system. Performance is not comparable with what you're using right now. I 100% agree. Definitely agree with that. Are you able to point me to the right video for getting Laravel set up on Docker? There's a lot of those out there right now. So if you want to use the system that I'm using, if you go to my YouTube channel, the introduction video on my channel is the first video that I made about getting Laravel set up with Docker. And then there's a follow-up video to that as well, which kind of builds on that video, shows you more things to do with Docker and a Laravel setup, and it comes from a very novice place with both Docker and Laravel. You don't need to know a lot for either or to get started with it. Additionally, there's also the software Laradoc. There's Laravel's new Sail package, which gets you set up with a local environment in Docker with one single line, which you can look up on their actual installation docs now. Lots to get started with. Will this be a video too on your channel? Yes, Lars. So everything that's in this stream right now, the source code and the whole gist of this stream is going to be compiled down into a video that I'm working on this week, and that will be up and ready by next weekend. So I'll probably be releasing that around Friday next week. And it'll be condensed into about 30 to 40 minutes. Yeah, Laradoc is really good. It's just the complaint that I've heard, I'm parroting it because I agree with it, and I agree with a lot of people who have said this. It's very complicated. There's a lot there, which is good because, I mean, every Laravel application has a bunch of different software that people could be using for it. You know, each one has its own requirements, but for just getting started with Laravel and Docker, it's a lot to work through, but it's powerful. very powerful, and I like it. So, okay. Product seeder. So in the run function, we are going to need our seeder class. We could do app, was it database? Nope, models. Product. Was it product factory? Is that how I run this? Using model factories, yeah. So it's just the product, it's just a factory method on the model. So we should be able to call it product factory, and then however many times we want to run that factory, so however many products we want to create in the database. So the product, I'm probably going to create like 20 at first. I think that's good for us. And then, oops, times. And then so at the end here, if we just ran factory times, what that does is it runs that factory 20 times and creates 20 fake models for us, but doesn't do anything with them. And so in order to actually save it to the database, we have to run create. And so what that'll do is it'll take that generated data that it makes for each time that it ran that factory and put it into our product table in the database. What are the pros of using Docker? Never used it. Using normal Laravel and PHP with Valet right now. So for me, I kind of skipped right from a local setup on Mac OS, which ran a LAMP stack, directly to Docker. I used Valet a couple of times, but it works good for local development, but I wanted something that really mimicked what was on my production environment. So my production servers, they ran PHP 7. I think when I started learning Docker, it was like PHP 7.1 or 0.2. It was on Ubuntu. It ran Nginx, not Apache. So I wanted something that ran the same setup. That's why Docker really appealed to me. But the biggest thing for me is that if I need multiple different Laravel applications that each have different requirements. So I don't know about you guys, but I work with a lot of legacy software. I work with a lot of Laravel applications that should be updated but haven't been updated in sometimes years. And so some of them won't run on newer versions of PHP, or some of them require newer versions of PHP or other software. And it's using Docker and Docker Compose files is really easy because you can specify all the software that you need for your system, and you can spin them up and down in literally minutes. And so if you're working half the day on one legacy application that needs PHP 5.6 and an older version of MySQL, and even an older version of NPM, is that you can get that environment set up on your local environment that matches whatever production environment that it's currently on. And then all of a sudden you need to switch gears to something that's a brand new application, and you want to run PHP 8 or 7.4 and new MySQL 8. Then you can just spin that one down, go into your project's Docker Compose file, and spin the new one up, and have an environment without having to use something like PHP Switcher for Mac OS or WAMP for Windows. It's a way easier. What's I'm looking for? It's a way easier setup. It's nice and clean. And then if you start using Docker when you actually deploy your deploy your projects, it makes it even easier. I don't like working with a lot of sysadmin stuff. I've never been great at it, so Docker kind of took a lot of that configuration and headache out into a more simplistic environment. Yes, this broadcast will be saved on both Twitch and YouTube, so you'll be able to check it out on both. Can you explain why you use Nginx and not Apache? Honestly, the only reason that I use Nginx over Apache is because I like the config better. I like the config files for Nginx and the pathways and everything. It's just cleaner and easier to get set up than Apache has ever been for me. But that's literally the only reason that I use it, as opposed to Apache. I like it. That's basically it. Okay, so we have our product created 20 times. Now we need to create relationships as well as just these models, because we could create products and then categories and then orders and then users, but for our categories and products, we have no way of telling Laravel that these two are related to each other. And the reason for that is that that intermediary table, because it's a many-to-many relationship, it's not populating like you would if you're generating products and categories through the back end of Laravel. And so what we need to do for that is we need to call a method that is generated partly with Laravel and then partly with your model name. And so that is, if we go to our seeders class here, it's this has posts right here. So what that's going to do is, if we call has categories on the product, sorry, I'm getting kind of hungry and slowing down a little bit. If we call has categories on the product seed, and then we pass in an integer of how many categories we want to create, it'll create those categories for us. But the downside is that it's not a one-to-many relationship, so I don't know if we want to use that or not. But this is what we would use for the users seeder to get them orders. So each user has multiple orders, but because each order only has one user, we can call the user factory and say has orders, and then pass in however many orders we want to on that. Can you explain why you didn't include the foreign key in migration? No, I probably should have. I just kind of left it out and was trying to get through the migration as quick as possible. But yeah, okay. So I'm actually going to get through these seeders really quick. Product seeder, the order seeder, the category seeder, and the user seeder. And then I'm going to grab some food because I'm starving. So after that, I'll bring the stream down for a couple of hours, or for like an hour or so, and then boot it back up, and we can continue on with where we left off. So for our product, we have product factory running 20 times to create. We're going to use our order factory here, and we're going to run order factory, and we need, let's say, so we're generating 5 users, I think is what I said, or what I had originally put on there. It was in the factory that I did that. Order, yeah, 10. I'm generating 10 users. So for the orders, I'll generate 10 orders. Category. So we're generating 20 products. I think them going into 4 categories should be nice. We're going to create those, and then the user seeder, user factory, and we're going to create 10 users as well. So we have 10 users being saved in here. We have 10 categories. We have 10 orders. We have 10 products. And what we can do is, just for simplicity's sake, or not simplicity's sake, but just for demonstration, I will run this migration, and then I'll show you what's in the database so that you can see that we've populated some of the fields, but not all of them. And then when I come back, I will clear out the database and we can run the migration again. So docker compose run our artisan dec, and it should run all the seeders that we just created, unless it gives us an error back, in which case it's kind of likely to happen. Database factories str not found. Uh-oh, I did not include the call to str in category factory. That's my bad. There we go. Okay. Now see if we run this again, the problem is that it's going to generate, because user seeder, product seeder, and order seeder all went through fine, it's going to generate more of those again. So it's going to generate everything again. But so now we will have 20 users, 40 products, 20 orders, I think is what I did. And then our 4 categories. So now if we go to like Artisan Tinker, I can show you everything that we have in the database. So if we do, if we run all products, we can see that we have, you know, a cool name that we generated here for this using the business name. We have the slug, we have the description, which is just real text. The price, this is $133.41, $342.72 up here. And yeah, these are our products. Is it just me or 4297? No ID. I don't know why that number's. I could have. I'm like I was a little freaked out. I thought they created 4,290 products, but no, the IDs are here. It's what it should be. So that's good. But see, the downside though is that we don't have relationships with these yet. So if we do product app models product with categories get, it's not showing anything for the categories. So we don't have that relationship built in yet. So that's what we'll tackle next. Product count. Yeah, see if we did product count. We only have 40, which is good. Okay, so I'll just answer some questions before I head out here, because Nginx is better than Apache. Yes. Okay. How to use Laravel with Vue in the same project. So Vue lends itself really well to being just injected in HTML, in just plain template files. So what I'm going to do is that in our views file, if we just open up a view here, and I will erase this view and create a new one. If we just add in like a div that just says like ID of app, and then in our JavaScript on our Vue application, and we just run, or in our Laravel application, if we just run Vue and initialize it on that app, then we have a Vue instance running inside of Laravel on this app, and that's what's going to end up that's what's going to end up happening, is that we're just going to have a single view for this entire application, because the bulk of it's going to be running through an API to get the data and everything, and then Vue. I don't know why this light keeps going out. And then Vue is going to pull in and display in that single blade template, and then render everything that we need to render through Vue files. Do you use fresh Vue CLI? I am using something like resources.js front-end root of Vue CLI app. I use Vue CLI whenever I'm building Vue like as a separate application. So if I was splitting this out completely and having just a single Vue SPA running, and then a completely separate repo for like the Laravel API, then I would use Vue CLI. But for this, I'll show you that I just use npm to pull down Vue and kind of get a boilerplate app up and running through just typing out text, or just typing out code. View a full schema design of the shopping cart. Yeah, I will download, because I actually don't have it on this computer, and I realized that before I started the stream, or I realized that after I started the stream. I don't have any kind of SQL inspection program or anything like that running on this Windows machine, so I will download that so we can see the actual database, be able to tinker with it a little bit more. Thanks for the useful videos. What drives you to make such good content? So I learned web development from people doing what I'm doing now. I am a self-taught developer, never went to school for it. So I'm just trying to give back to the community that got me where I am today. Laracasts basically got me interested in Laravel, Jeffrey Way and all of his content, and that's what I'm trying to be like. You don't use a database tool in PHP Storm. I completely forgot there was a database tool in PHP Storm. It's because I have these bars off most of the time that I completely forgot that there is a viewer directly in this. Let me think of how to open it back up again. Because, yeah, that'd be a good idea if I could just do that. Data source. Why don't I see MySQL? Because it's a whale or dolphin. Name. Localhost sounds good. Host, localhost. Port is 3306. User is Homestead. Password is secret. Database is Homestead. Oh wow, look at that. Thanks, Robert, for that suggestion. So look at that, I don't need to download anything additional. Perfect. So we can see our orders, and we can see that if we go into the category product, yes, we don't have any IDs attached to the category and the product, so that's why that relationship isn't working. Even though we have both categories and products, we don't have that relationship. Same with the order product table, we don't have that relationship added in. So we will get started on that after the break. And I will be back in a few minutes.